All right, so let's go back to the end of the food stuff. A couple things with your puppy. It's handy if you have small kids or even for you. If your dog becomes the boss and decides that it's going to rule the household when it comes to food and things that it eats, you can teach it the word drop it. It's really easy to do. A lot of people say, well, I go to get it and the dog growls at me. And I say, well, what do you do? Oh, I let him have it. No, you can't do that. The dog's won the argument and it's now one step higher than you are. So the big thing is, if it's got something that you don't want it to have and it does not want to give it up, you don't bend over and pick it up. You walk up to the dog very calmly, take your foot and put it on his nose and say, drop it. If he doesn't drop it, you press down a little harder and tell him, drop it. If he doesn't drop it, you continue. You press a little harder. There comes a point where the dog drops it. Do not bend over and pick it up. Take your foot, move it around, turn your back to the dog, and pick it up. If you do this several times in a week, your dog, all you have to do is say, up, drop it, and it'll walk away and back up. And you can pick up the toy or food or whatever. But you have to become the alpha. If you're not the alpha, the dog will be your alpha. So kind of keep that in mind when you're feeding dog food. The other thing is, if you're going to feed on a schedule, set the dog food down and say, wait. Don't let the dog have it. Make him sit down and then say, wait. And in the first part, when you're training this, give him 10 seconds and say, okay, and push the bowl over. Next time you go to feed, say, wait, make him sit down, and then tell him, wait. Maybe make it 20 seconds. Always change the time. If you always do it for 10 seconds and then say, okay, the dog is just going to automatically jump at that 10-second mark. They're smart enough to figure the time out. So you're going to work him back and forth on different times. Ultimately, if you're going to feed the dog and then have breakfast, you need to become the queen of the house. So you're going to set the dog, if he eats in the kitchen or wherever you're feeding him, if he doesn't eat in the kitchen, it's not that big of a deal. But if he eats in your kitchen and you feed him, then you go sit down and eat, you've made him king of the house. So what you need to do is tell it, once he's learned the wait thing, set the bowl by the table, say wait, sit down and have your breakfast. Do not let him have it. And when you're done, say okay. But once they've learned that, the wait, you can work him up to different times or her, doesn't matter. But if he always gets everything he wants right off the bat, he's going to be obnoxious. So teach him the wait game. Let's see. So that's really all on here. You're always welcome to call me with questions if you have questions about dog food, snacks, anything like that. I am more than glad to help out if I can. All right. So the biggie in here is the pink sheet. Parvo is your worst nightmare. So this is kind of goes where traveling in a car versus airplane is safer for me. I love to have people come here, but the big thing is if you're coming here, you got to understand you cannot do roadside rests, Burger King, McDonald's, any fast food place that people stop to grab a bite to eat and let the dog take a leak or defecate. You pick up all disease from feces and urine and bodily fluid. So the bad thing also is your shoes. You can walk someplace when you're traveling, or if you work during the day, or you're going to school grounds, or your soccer games, or football games, or whatever, and you come home and the puppy licks your shoes. You can carry parvo in your house and never know it. Parvo lasts for 5 months in the ground. So even though the rain has depleted what was there still could be microscopic pieces of feces in the grass, and you bring them home on your shoes, and somebody licks your shoes, and you've got parvo. A really good example, which unfortunately happened here, we had a family that came in every week to visit their puppy. I let them do it. I didn't know any better. I always had them, clean their shoes. They didn't touch anybody else's puppies. I let them pick their puppy up and hold it. They had been to a pet store before they came, which I found out after the fact. And 3 days after they were here, their puppy came down with parvo. So when I called him and I said, where were you guys at before you came to my house? And they told me they were at the pet store. I said, did you handle the puppies? Well, yeah, the kids like to see them when we go. I said, well, your dog has parvo. I said, you brought it in from the pet store. And it was a really, really horrific month. 4 dogs came down with it here in our garage. I know none of you have been here yet, so you haven't seen our setup in our garage, but we've got 8 kennels in our garage that we keep puppies in when they're due to go home. So there were a lot of puppies that were exposed to parvo. It ended up, we lost 1 puppy, and it was not the puppy of the people that brought the parvo to us. It cost us about $4,000 in vet bills, and we had to replace a puppy. So parvo is so contagious. When you go to your veterinarian's office, do not let anybody in the office that's there to have their dog checked in pet your puppy. If their dog is sick and their kids come over and go, oh, can I pet your puppy? And he reaches for your puppy's going to lick their hand, automatically going to lick their hand. So you have now been exposed to whatever their dog has. Do not put it on the floor at the veterinarian's office, because if there's been a dog that's defecated, urinated, or thrown up, and they did not eradicate it with Clorox well enough, you're going to catch it. When you go back in the exam room to be examined and have the puppy checked, if the table looks dirty, like someone else has been on it, ask them to wipe it off. I'm not a fan of the scales that are out front, where they have the big scales that they set your dog on, because I've seen dogs pee on it before, and I've seen them take a paper towel and wipe it off, and they did not disinfect it. So it's not something to be paranoid about, just be aware of. If you've got a lot of kids come over and they want to, they've got a new puppy and they want to have your puppy come and have a puppy play date with them, do not do it. Not until your dog has had all of its shots, because they should be as afraid of your dog as you are of their dog, because you don't know anything about their dog or where it came from. Gestation period for parvo is 3 to 7 days. So that means if you come down with it, somewhere in that 3 to 7 days, you have come in contact with another dog that has it or is a carrier, or you have gone on a walk somewhere that has had feces and urine that you didn't see. So it's really smart to keep this dog at home at your house, not go out in parks or around the block. And I know right now you're probably going, oh Lord, we got to go to Aunt Susie's and she's got a dog, and what do? We got to take the dog with us. Couple things about that. If somebody has a dog that's always in their yard, doesn't go anywhere, doesn't go to doggy parks, you're probably fine. You know, it's the dog that goes to dog parks. So if you've got friends that always go to dog parks, they turn the dog loose, let it run the dog park, play with the other dogs, that's the one I would worry about, because they can carry it on their coat and be absolutely healthy. So if you've got a dog that is 3 years old, great dog, always goes for dog walks all over the park every day, goes to doggy parks to play, it can carry parvo on its coat if it brushes its coat against it, or if it rolls in the ground where someone's defecated. They can bring it in the home. It is species specific. Cats don't carry it. So I hope some of that helps. Parvo is something that the only way you can kill it, if it's in your house, on your shoes, on your hands, or whatever, is Clorox water. The other thing is, which will blow your mind, is when you go to the pet store. If you go to a pet store that allows people to bring their dog in, do not take your dog to those pet stores. If you buy things on the bottom shelf at a pet store that lets their dogs go in, and it's not been washed in Clorox water, but if it's vacuum sealed, you're probably safe. But I personally have watched dogs pee on the bottom shelves in those pet stores. Nobody tells the attendants that or the cash people that their dog is urinated on the shelf. They don't want people to know. The other thing is people will pick up toys and let their dog play with it and then put it back on the shelf because it's too expensive. So if you buy something at one of those pet stores that lets dogs go to them, I would really highly recommend washing in a mild Clorox water anything that you take home from the pet store that has not been vacuum sealed. Parvo is a nasty disease. By the time you notice your dog is sick, you're in the middle of it. So make sure you get your shots done on time. There's lots of information in here This actually came from the Ohio State University off their website. One of the girls, one of my vet techs ran this off for me so I could put it in your folder. So this is a real intensive thing on parvo. If you're traveling, that's the biggest thing, is someplace goofy. Make sure you take baggies that you can clean up your feces with when they go to the bathroom. Church parking lots, a house that's abandoned that is, nobody lives there, it's for sale. A farmer's field, you know, there's always pull-offs in farmer's fields. Go out, take your pup out in the farmer's field. Just stay away from the high stop areas, gas stations, Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, any fast food place at all. You're liable to run into problems with that. So, other than that, there's a little bit in here on lepto. This is what is not in a 5-way shot. So I'm going to let you read this. It's something just to be aware of. If you're ever going to have an anaphylactic reaction, it's to lepto. It doesn't happen often, but I have had clients have it. Your vets usually use a 7-way or a 6-way. They both have lepto. So it is something to just be aware of. You might check with your vet, talk to them, you know, get their feelings on it, and see what they have to say about it. So I got a couple minutes left on this video. So real quickly too, I've had these t-shirts sitting out here. I give everybody that comes 2 t-shirts. So these are our Schnoodle t-shirts, and it's life is good, Schnoodles make it better. I carry these in kid sizes from extra small through adult XXX. Color wise, what can I tell you? I can't. I do multicolors. I print these myself. I used to have a silk screen shop, so we print all these. I like lots of colors, so usually when you come, you can pick through whatever you want. You get 2 free t-shirts per family. If you want more, they're $5 a piece. And they're good Gildan first qualities. I don't do cheap t-shirts. I hate t-shirts that shrink. So I'm going to close this one for now, and we'll start in the second half of this book when we get back.